Outer Orange.
Yeah. So, welcome in, my wonderful homies. It's been 3 months since I last talked about ban lists, so we're gonna talk about it today, but this time we're gonna talk about it on YouTube. I'm on YouTube, oh my god.
I am so smart.
On Twitch, but it'll go on YouTube. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, we'll just start with V. So there's two problem childs right now in V. Good old Gurgit, and we have Prism. There's literally no other deck that's as good as those two decks right now, in my opinion. There are some decks that kind of have this thing where they have a chance of topping, and they're not bad decks overall. Like we have like Vanquisher and Night Rose, and we have like Poets and all this other stuff. But if you want a very consistent, will win you majority of your games type of decks, it's Gurgit and it's Prism Vert. Need to get hit. If one gets hit and not the other one, we're gonna have a freaking problem. Because my personal opinion, I have this really crazy opinion. Hear me out, y'all. They're gonna hit Prism and they're not gonna hit Gurgit. I have a feeling that it's gonna happen. That will be a problem. If they can honestly just put Percival back to how it was, keep it restricted. I don't think they need to ban it, but a lot of people are talking about the new Holy Shrine and all that stuff, in which case maybe Percival needs to go. Haven't tested it, don't really know, so I'm not gonna give my full answer on that. But I do think that getting Percival out of Gurgit is probably a good start. And then going into Prism, now guys, I've already mentioned this like before, you know, back in the day of March 10th and before March 10th of 2022, when we had our first official ban list happen in a long hot second. Oh my goodness, people were like, ban Weaselot, ban Ellie, ban Aqua, restrict them all, blah blah blah. And I was one of those people that's like, no, don't do that. Instead, just restrict the actual, just ban the core cards in Vert. You have two options here. You have two options with Vert. You either ban Vert, which I think is the worser of the two. I know some people just want the deck gone, but I think that's the worser of the two. Or you just ban Rosa. I know some people are like, oh, I know, but there's like you know, substitutes and stuff like that. Rosa will be enough to lower the deck to at least a tier 2 deck, in my opinion, and I think that'll be fine. I don't think people will be playing it as much anymore and all this other stuff. Yes, you can replace it with the grade 1, yada yada, but the thing about it is that honestly, that grade 1 isn't really helping the overall thing of pressuring your opponent as much and all that stuff, and you have to find room for everything. And yeah, you can put the grade 1, you can put the grade 2. What does Rosa do again? On place, she has two really good skills. Her first skill says on place, counterblast 1 top 7 for 2 Prism units, and you bind 1, you put 1 to hand. If you only can meet the condition of one of them, you pick one or the other. There are other conditions is when she's placed from the bind, she gives a 10k front, but the 10k front is busted because under Vert with the triple drive and everything, it makes it really lethal. And honestly, in my opinion, if you compare Rosa to any other card in Bermuda, nothing quite does what she does. Nothing filters as good as she does, and nothing gives a straight front like that, like she does. Now the other option, like I said, is just banning Vert. Like you could just ban Vert. I think that kind of kills the deck. Obviously the deck will no longer exist anymore. You know, I personally take the first place results a lot more seriously than I take top 8, if I'm gonna be real, in terms of like straight up statistics. And Rose has been doing pretty well in there, so maybe there's something that might need to be touched in Rose. But personally, I think if you're playing something like Prism or Gurgit, or I don't even know what else is out there that kind of deals with it. Any form of rush too. I really don't think Skull Dragon needs to go. I hear that argument so much, and honestly, like it's not a hard card to play around. I promise you. If you get rid of Skull Dragon, Granblue no longer has a finisher. If you want to restrict it with Rose, sure, but please don't kill the entire clan. That kills the clan. The clan has no finisher. Don't say Scaradic. That is not a finisher. Flanger is gone. That was a quote unquote finisher. That's gone. Like I think Skull Dragon is fine. Honestly, you can play around Skull Dragon, and I know that's like, oh, just play around it, but you can play around Skull Dragon. It's actually not that difficult. The only thing that screws you over is your opponent hits crits after crits after crits, but that's just them hitting triggers. Like you can't, any deck can do that. So I hate Navigator. I think Navigator is a dumb card. Not in terms of like I hate facing it or whatever. I just think that the skill on it is just stupid. I would love to see that card banned. that card can get banned. It can get banned in every freaking format. I don't like that card. I think it just makes Monkey Brain Granblue come out, and that's just personally how it is. But yeah, in Granblue, if we were to touch something, I'm gonna stick to the Navigator or the Bone ban. Negrabone, if we were to touch something in Granblue, I think those are better options. Some argue, you know, restricting Greedshade and Columbard. I think that kind of touches the overall clan a little too much, because remember, it's about lowering the deck's power, not lowering the entire clan's power, because like other stuff in in Granblue isn't really degenerate. Rose and Beatrice was choice. That's possible. I would not be against that, because then it would force people to use more counterblasts and have to run more cutlasses and stuff like that. So I think it would force the counter chargers. Plus we have King Serpent as well, along with Jessie, so I think that wouldn't be too bad, because then you don't have to go Calm Bard into Night Mist again, which is what Night Rose used to do. And if you want like the full combo to go off, but that required 3 counterblasts, so it was extremely heavy. And then once Beatrice dropped, that pretty much was like, oh well, now you can just do whatever you want, it doesn't matter, Beatrice is a Soul Blast. So maybe something like that. I'm not like crazy about touching Granblue, other people are, and I promise I'm not biased. Like I play against Granblue players a lot. Excel decks destroy and annihilate Night Rose to no tomorrow. They barely have any hand as it is, and Excel just says swing, 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 and it's just game over. But I think early aggression is just the way to go. Anyway, so let's talk about D, because there's a lot of kind of, D is interesting. So Overdress's meta is kind of all over the place, if I'm gonna be real, aside from like the super low tier decks. So personally, there's one thing I'd like to see. It's probably not going to happen this time, and it won't happen for a while. There's literally one card, and honestly it might be weird in the future, there might be some differences, but I low-key think, and it might be a hot take to be honest with y'all, but I think Inlet needs to stay out of every deck that isn't Flagbrick, in my opinion. Like, I honestly think, I don't know if there's a way to fix that. I don't think there is. That's why this is kind of more of a hot take than anything else. But once Zorga gets a potential 4th attack or something like that, Zorga's gonna get busted along with everything else, because Inlet is just a really good card. It's a free soul and a free draw for essentially doing nothing. It doesn't really reward the player, and I think it rewards the player that plays Flagbrick, because that's where the card was meant to be. But when you look at Magnolia and look at potentially Zorga in the future, I think that card more breaks those decks than actually does what they're supposed to do, because Zorga has a really huge issue with Soul, and Inlet would fix that problem easily if they ever get a 4th attack in their deck. Might not ever happen. If that's the case, that's fine. And Magnolia will always be a multi-attacking deck no matter what you do. Like, it's literally the engine, and I think Inlet being in that deck is a problem too. Like, if Inlet wouldn't be Magnolia, I think Magnolia would be like literally just as fair as like everything else, and probably would even be a little bit lower too, because like you wouldn't have that like crazy 3 draw per turn that you're getting on top of a triple drive and everything else. Like, Magnolia dies the deck out. Magnolia doesn't really die to anything else. Like, you can't shred through that hand. But that's just, I don't want that right now. I can see in the future that being a problem. That's Overdress. Otherwise, I think everything is fine. I really don't think anything needs to be touched. I do think that some of the lower decks could use some more support overall, but there's nothing that really feels that degenerate. It needs to go. Premium was kind of rough, because like, how do I put it? Even if we were to like touch all the top stuff, there's like this layer of decks that people just don't really know about. They're kind of like tier 2 decks, and some of them are known and some of them are unknown. And once tier 1 kind of lowers, those tier 2 decks are going to rise, and some decks are just going to come out of nowhere people don't really know about too much. There's quite a few of them. I'm not going to go into like a whole detail, but I do think the meta is going to drastically shift once we see like pretty much dolls and bugs kind of go down a little bit. Bugs I don't really think is a problem, but I think Ruination can just kind of, yeah, and Regalia is another one. But Regalia doesn't need to get touched. The Regalia is pretty ban you. Yeah, we'll ban you. It's nice knowing you. I think Ruination in the future will break other stuff. It could be even an Aquaforce, and I definitely think that Ruination could just go away. Choice restricted with Ghidorah, or just get rid of it completely. Whatever works. It's a generic card. There might be in the future something comes out and it'll just bring Ruination like this. So Ruination is just too free, or the book, or you know, whatever it is. But for my personal thing, I think first was just choice restricting Ruination with Ghidorah, and then probably in the future banning it. But I honestly think that card probably just needs to just get out of premium. And then going on to dolls, a lot of people are talking about banning something in dolls. Yeah, dolls is pretty gross. I personally don't think dolls is as bad, but I also play Granblue, so the Guinea restriction or Guinea going probably the best solution. There might be more, but honestly I think Guinea is fine. Granblue is a weird one. I honestly don't know what to touch in Granblue. I've talked about this before. I think the thing I came to terms with is just getting rid of Nightstorm. As weird as it sounds, I think it might kill the deck, to be honest. If you ban Navigator, nothing changes. There's Bilber, and 2, there's the new 7 Seas card. Literally Navigator, banning Navigator will change absolutely nothing about Granblue. It'll stay exactly the same. So it's hard to really know what to touch in Granblue to make it a little bit more fair. I would need to talk to an expert or something. I really we don't know. How much do you want to reduce the Granblue deck orange? I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know what needs to be touched. I think starting with Negerbone wouldn't be a bad place though, because it would actually stop some loops and it would actually stop some of the monkey brain milling. Otis can go. Goodbye, Otis. Bye, Otis. It was nice knowing you. Bye-bye. Actually had a choice restriction on Gurgit, but then they... Hi, kitty. And she came here for this actually. Okay, you can stay here. You can stay here. Her fur got on my face. Ugh. Yeah, you're a very old kitty. She's like, can you not? All right, thanks for licking me. Yep, that's... Here, you can have your slobber back. Thank you. All right, anyway, ban lists aside, I'm done talking about ban lists. Das vidania. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!
Because that's my mission, is to be on fire. I'll do it again. Watch. Thank you, my DF cursed gotcha.